Hey, what's up, everybody? Time for another game theory video. Remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel if you can. I appreciate it. Thanks, Super Chat, PayPal, Patreon. Birthday present? You got about a week. You got about a week to give me a birthday present. Otherwise, no more videos. No more videos ever again. Maybe. I got left a comment talking about neutral skips. So I guess what is old is new again. We'll do another video talking about neutral skips and neutral and footsies. Again, footsies is used in a different way back in the day. But I've said this before. Neutral skips do not exist in old school games. Even though people try to use examples like Vega's wall dive, etc. Vega's wall dive is not a neutral skip, okay? Neutral skips only exist in quotation marks modern games. Of course, you know, I'm old at this point, so what is even modern? But neutral skips only exist, quotation marks, in modern games. Neutral skips actually don't exist in old school games, okay? And often these neutral skips are actually a homogenized mechanic, okay? Because back in the day, characters were not homogenized, right? So let's think about this. Let's use some different examples, not just the Vega example, but I'm going to give a few different examples for Super Turbo and these other kind of games, right? Let's say, before we even get into Vega, let's say a character like Zangief, right? Zangief has a lariat, right? And that goes through fireballs, correct? Right? We know that, right? Let's take a character like Guile and Ryu. A fireball is part of their neutral, right? Would we say that, right? Okay. Now, if Zangief's lariat goes through a fireball, and that is a core part of Guile and Ryu's neutral, would you say that Zangief is a fuck neutral character? He does go through Ryu and Guile's part of their neutral, doesn't he? Interestingly enough, if you think about it from this perspective, is it not curious to you that if you were to think about historically old school Street Fighter, that despite Zangief having a fuck neutral move, a skip neutral move, whatever you want to call it, right? That despite he can skip the neutral, quotation marks, of both Ryu and Guile, traditionally, Guile destroys Zangief, and traditionally, most people lean to Zangief slightly beats Ryu. Okay, that's kind of interesting, despite Zangief having a actual fuck neutral move in these specific matchups, right? If we're to look at a character like Vega with the wall dive, I've used examples like this, and you can watch the videos, right? If you actually think about Vega from traditional old school Street Fighter sort of perspective, the match starts. Say if he is versing old school Ryu, old Ryu. Vega's neutral, quotation marks, in that situation, I'm going to use the word priority, is actually not that strong. Despite Vega having longer reach normals, all that kind of stuff, Ryu, if we use the traditional word or definition of footsies of mashing on duck short, Ryu's footsies, etc., have a lot of priority over Vega's neutral. Despite you, the community, who tries to, you know, throw this propaganda on everybody that Vega is a fuck neutral character, Vega's neutral is actually not that strong versus old Ryu, because Ryu's footsies beats him. If Vega just starts wall diving at the beginning of the match, old school Ryu has a jump strong with a lot of hang time that can preemptively beat wall dive shenanigans. If Vega's using it in neutral, which you say wall dive is a fuck neutral move, right? Just like the jump roundhouse, huge hitbox, huge priority on it for Vega. If Vega just starts wall diving at the beginning of a match, is he saying fuck neutral? Or maybe Vega's quotation marks neutral, footsies, if we're thinking about neutral as being footsies, is kind of weak, right? Is it really just that you think Vega is bullshit because once Vega knocks you down, he can start wall diving and it might cross you up, might not, and you're forced to reversal it? Hopefully you do it the right way, right? Is that a really fuck neutral move, right? And just like I talked about the Guile versus Ryu thing, how two neutrals can combine to create different outcomes, right? Even though Ryu and Guile, part of their neutral is both a fireball. Even though Zangief, part of his neutral is a lariat that goes through their neutral, quotation marks, part of their neutral, because of the character's different tools, the matchup results are not even the same. Even if we go to this example, which I just used, of Vega versus Ryu, new Ryu's neutral with his footsies is not as strong versus Vega because the priority, I'm going to say priority, but hitboxes and hurt boxes are worse. So Ryu's footsies in the Vega matchup, this neutral, actual neutral of the match is actually not as strong, right? A final example of this, and again, where I'm getting to when characters have non-homogenized mechanics, right? And their neutral can combine to create two drastically different neutrals, right? If we're to use a character, and I've used this, again, watch the videos, look at Ryu, and again, old Ryu with new Ryu comparatively versus old Sim and new Sim in Super Turbo, right? Old Sim cannot control his limbs, right? New Sim can control his limbs, which actually makes Sim's neutral even better because then it allows him to use some of these back normals in actual footsie situations, and it allows Dalsum can now check characters when he is not a character that should be able to check like that. Dalsum can actually out-check a character like Ryu, even if we're thinking about old school Street Fighter, say Championship, Turbo, even Super, that kind of thing, where Ryu has footsies that check Dalsum and can slowly try to get in. Once we get to a game like Super Turbo where Ryu's footsies, the priority, checking, etc., is worse, right? And Dalsum can control his normals. Now Dalsum can actually play footsies. The neutral is completely different, right? Two different neutrals, even from an old character to a new character, can create a new neutral, right? Super Turbo is not a game that just says, oh, this is a fuck neutral move. Just like the Vega thing. Vega's wall dive is not a fuck neutral move. Vega does not wall dive at the beginning of the match and automatically beat every character, right? That's just not how the game doesn't work that way, okay? If we're to look at a game, let's say CVS2. CVS2 is a game that has a fuck neutral mechanic, right? And that would be roll canceling. Roll canceling is a fuck neutral move, right? A fuck neutral homogenized mechanic because everybody can use it. Now, every character uses it to different varying degrees and varying strengths, but ultimately you are giving a character a invincible move that is moving you forward, that is bringing you to your opponent, right? That is fucking the neutral. I've made many videos on it, and a video specifically, you could even look at it. I talk about a move like, say, Ryu's Rush Fierce in CVS2. Ryu's Rush Fierce in CVS2, if you're to think about Ryu's traditionally in games, Ryu's Rush Fierce is a move that rushing fierce, and you can link off of it, right? But CVS2 is a good example of why roll canceling is so bad, because CVS2, they made Ryu's Rush Fierce a actual checking normal, right? It's a move that has a deceptive amount of priority for what it is, and it can check a lot of normals while rushing him forward. And it leaves you at a slight advantage, and it always pushes you back to a sort of Ryu sweet spot, right? And then you get in that guessing game of where if the guy to jump, if the guy were to roll, you get back into a fireballing poke sort of distance, rushing fierce check. But a move like Rush Fierce doesn't work like that in CVS2 because this is a range now where every character can roll cancel to fuck your neutral. You can't check a roll cancel, right? Just like CVS2 is a game where you have, say, a character like a move like Blanca Ball. Blanca Ball is a move in CVS2 who, again, if we're to think about a traditional game like Street Fighter 2, where Blanca Ball is actually punishable by some characters on block. Blanca Ball is not punishable like that in CVS2, right? It is a move where you might have to chicken block or do something obscure to punish the move. The move was not made to be invincible, and yet it is with roll canceling. It is a move that you're supposed to check, right? because it's no longer punishable in a lot of situations where you might be able to punish it in a game like Street Fighter 2. But now you throw all logic out of the equation because now the move is also a fuck neutral move because you cannot check the move. This is an example of a quotation marks modern game, right? Old game now, but a modern game that has a homogenized mechanic, right? A homogenized bug, actually, right? We look at a game like Alpha 2. Are custom combos not a homogenized, fuck neutral, skip neutral kind of mechanic? It's something that everybody can use. It's the best win condition, generally speaking, for every single character. It's a forward-moving, invincible thing that can make you safe, right? And remember, even if you don't use super, just the threat of the super is fucking your neutral because it's in the back of your head because you're like, every character has access to the best move in the game in Alpha 2, right? Every character in Alpha 2 has the best move in the game that is applicable in almost basically every situation, right? Even if they don't use the custom combo, your neutral is fucked because of the mental stack of it, right? It is a fuck neutral mechanic because it is that powerful and every character has access to it, right? If we were to go back again, upward, we look at Super Turbo. A great example of this compared to Super Turbo is people will say that supers are a fuck neutral move, right? But even if supers are invincible, right? Even if some characters do have any advantage after them, I've said this before so many times, Super Turbo is a serendipitously, it's amazing just how well the game is held up. 30 years later, every character is still competitive at every level. And even if you want to say that supers can be a fuck neutral thing, guess what? Not all characters have the same super. Not like Alpha 2, right? Not all characters fuck neutral is applicable in the same neutral situation. Even a character like Vega, who you try to say is fucking neutral with wall dive, which we've already showed that's just not how it works, right? Vega is not a character that uses super. Old Sagat is not a character that uses super. Super Turbo, not every character even uses their super, right? If we're to look at a game, and it's not here for an example, but look at a game like Karnav's Revenge. Why do people, let's use a comparison to Alpha 2 for a second, right? What is a annoying thing maybe at a lower level and perhaps a higher level as well? Of course, it can be frustrating. What is a frustrating thing about Karnav's Revenge that maybe if you look at it, you might be like, wow, Karnav's Revenge has too many fuck neutral moves. And the fuck neutral move, the skip neutral move would be Karnav has forward moving invincible DPs that are often very hard to punish or awkward to punish, right? Is that not what a sort of fuck you thing is? Like, oh, you get to move forward and you're invincible? This is going through neutral? That is a fuck neutral thing, right? So if you hate Karnav's Revenge for having fuck you neutral moves like that, how do you hate a game like Alpha 2 where everyone has the same thing? And it's the best move in the game. CVS2, everybody can roll cancel. It's the best thing. You can move forward while being invincible. And again, that's not to say that Karnav's Revenge is the greatest game ever. Again, I think Karnav's Revenge is a game that runs a fine line between being scrub-a-dub and deceptively skillful, but it is still a comparison that, I mean, it's there, right? If we were to now go look at a game like Street Fighter 6, and people say that Drive Rush is a fuck neutral move, right? We would say that because guess what? Everyone has the same thing. It's everyone's same way to get in. Everyone, of course there's characters like JP, he's a little bit more, fireball kind of shit, but every character drive rush this, drive rush low, medium, blah, 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 right? Everyone has the quotation marks, same neutral possibilities, right? Everyone's neutral is quotation marks the same in a way because it's a homogenized game. We all quotation marks poke in the same way, right? Game like Street Fighter 2, even though people, oh, this game is so fucked up, oh, the neutral's so stupid, there's so many skip, this is skip neutral, right? I've used the example of Ryu and Guile, right? Even though Zangief has a fuck neutral move with spinning lariat, the spinning lariat, guess what? Because Ryu and Guile actually have different normals that function in different ways. And of course, Sonic Boom is, better recovery, but, because they actually have different normals, right? The neutral still ends up being vastly different to the point that one character beats the other character, right? Street Fighter 6, when you have these homogenized normals, the neutral is going to be similar. And when everyone has the same mechanic, right, to get in, there's going to be a lot of fuck neutral move. Skip neutral, fuck neutral, whatever you want to call it, right? The homogenization of games, right? Slimer this, Slimer that, blah, 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 right? Oh, Street Fighter 6, look at here. What do we use our supers for, right? Oh, it's the end of the combo. So blah, blah, blah. Homogenized game, right? Yeah, there's a couple characters that don't use their super for the same situations, but generally, what's a super? Oh, it's combo fodder. Great. Example of, to play devil's advocate for a game, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, people say that homing dash is a fuck neutral move, right? It's a mechanic that moves you into the character, which again, going back to Street Fighter 6, I should say, I forgot to talk about this, but I've made videos about it. I've talked about the magnet effect in game. Modern games have this magnet effect, and it's in Dragon Ball Fighter Z as well, where normals constantly move you forward because they don't want there to be that sort of neutral, right? Street Fighter 6 also has this. Street Fighter 6, your normals move you forward for some reason, right? God forbid you get pushed away from a character, right? Just like, oh, I can't jump back and do a special anymore. I have to always be moving forward. Characters feel heavy, this magnet effect. Even the game mechanics drivers move you forward, right? Again, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, homing dash moves you forward, right? But to play devil's advocate for Dragon Ball Fighter Z, even though you could say homing dash is a fuck neutral move, right? Without homing dash, what would you do against moves like Vegito's Banshee Blast? Fireballs the entire screen. I've said this before. If I was remaking Dragon Ball Fighter Z, I would actually try to polish up the whole idea of homing dash versus reflecting and fireballs, right? That tug of war between these mechanics, because guess what? That's a tug of war. That's a mechanic that cannot be in any other fighting game. Ryu can't be homing dashing like this. Soul Calibur character Kalik can't be on his bow homing dashing, whatever. Kyo from King of Fighters can't be homing dashing at you like this, right? I said before, Dragon Ball Fighter Z is a drop ball because it actually gives you an opportunity, even if you want to say that homing dash is a fuck neutral move, right? It is a fuck neutral thing, quotation marks, that cannot exist in any other game, quotation marks, right? It's only going to work in a Dragon Ball Z game. And I would have polished it up and tweaked different things here and there, but to play devil's advocate for, again, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, the tug of war between fireball, homing, dashing, and reflecting is the most interesting thing about Dragon Ball Z. And if you didn't have homing dashes that were fast and went through fireballs and all this kind of stuff, fucks up the combo structure. And what are you going to do against moves like Vegito's Banshee Blast as fireballs the entire fucking screen? Right? You think about fuck neutral stuff, right? You could say, look at games like, Marvel games, anime games. Is calling an assist, that's a fuck neutral, right? I'm going to call my assists because I don't want to get in myself. I need help to get in, so I call an assist. That is my fuck neutral thing, right? What is one of the things I said, or I've said that sucks about Guilty Gear as the series progressed, right? A lot of characters just felt like they felt like they were running out of ideas. It was like a lot of characters just became knock you down into my version of bullshit. Or characters be like, oh, I'm going to fill the screen. Testament became I got puppet characters all over the place like that now. Just like Dizzy. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I got a fireball on the screen. This character's got a fireball on the screen. Blah, blah, blah. Right? Is that a fuck neutral thing? I guess you could say, at least for a game like Guilty Gear, not every character is like that, right? Is Soul doing a gun flame FRC in the old game while he's running through the flame? Is that part of his fuck neutral, right? But at least every character you could say is sort of trying to fuck neutral in their own way, right? And that's why I go back to a game like Super Turbo. Maybe there are some things that a character can say, fuck neutral for, right? But it becomes matchup specific. It becomes character specific. And when it's a character specifically doing something, that is always better than the entire game doing the same thing. That is better than the entire cast of characters doing the same thing. Like these new games, modern games where everybody fucks neutral in the same way. Again, at the end of the day, neutral can be ambiguous, right? Because just one character's neutral combined with another character's neutral can create a unique neutral that only exists between those characters, right? But when you have these modern games where every character, you start to lean towards, they all have the same normals that function the same way. They all use the mechanics of the game the same way. Of course, inevitably, if there's going to be a fuck neutral thing, every character is going to fuck neutral the same way, right? And so often when people talk shit about these old games like Super Turbo, whatever it is, they talk about fucking neutral and skipping neutral in ways that are extremely disingenuous. And if you know anything about fighting games, is not true whatsoever. Anyway, remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel if you can. Appreciate it. Thanks. I better see a birthday present. The end.